Okay, so today I'm going to show you a cheap, almost free way to manage your listings when maybe you're a new agent, you're just getting started, you have a few listings that you want to manage. Maybe you just had your first hire, so your original checklist just isn't cutting it. All of this just came from an Excel spreadsheet of all the different things that you do for your listings. And it's super easy to scale. Once you start having, let's say, 10 listings coming out at the same time, I would definitely recommend moving to something a little bit better, more expensive. You can always reach out to me and we can chat about your options, but let's go. Okay, step number 1 is gonna be organize your files. This is not sexy, this is not fun, but you will thank me once you've done a ton of transactions because you're gonna know exactly where everything is and you're never gonna have to do this again. So the first thing that I do is I go into my Google Drive. This might look a little bit different than some of you. It's gonna be similar to OneDrive, but I use Google File Stream, which is on my computer. Much more easy to navigate. Look it up. Thank me later. I make a template folder. So right here, if you can see, it's number 1 dash template, always going to show up at the top. In here, you're going to see my templated folders. Myself, my admins, my TC, always know what goes in what. That way, when I start a listing, I'm always going to know that my listing docs are going to go right here. Closing documents are going to go right here, contracts, stuff like that. Any marketing pieces, that's super helpful to keep in there because your sellers are going to ask you, what did you do for marketing? You're always going to have it right there. If you want to put it as part of your listing presentation because you have this amazing listing, you can go right back in this folder and find it. And you can also communicate if you eventually have a marketing team, you know where that is, you need to post it on social media. It's always easy to grab. And then photos. Photos, I always just dump right in here. So no matter how my photographer gives them to me, I go in here and put them in here. I generally go an extra step and I actually rename them by basically 1 through, let's say, 20. So they're in the correct order for me and my marketing team and they know which order I want them in the MLS. Extra step, I'm OCD, but it helps me. From here, when I have a new listing or I have even just a potential listing that's coming on, I just right click this template folder and I duplicate it. So I'm just gonna hit copy and then I'm gonna hit paste. And then from here, I rename it. So I'm gonna go ahead and you can just rename it. I'm gonna say like it's 123 Main Street. I always go by the street name first and then the number. And the reason for that is once you start having, you've been doing this for years and you have hundreds of transactions, they're always going to be in alphabetical order and you can just go right to the street name and then the number. Numbers are easily to, mistype or it ends up being really confusing because maybe you don't even remember what the actual number was. You just remember the street name. So I just go Main Street and then I'll just go like underscore 123. So, or 123. As long as you have the same naming system, it's easier for you to find later on. I see this all the time in people's backend system where they just can't find anything. This is going to make it way easier. I learned this from some transaction coordinators who obviously handle thousands and thousands of files a year. Use that tip. Hit save. It keeps the exact same file structure that you had in that template folder. Everything's always going to be the same. Everyone always knows where to put everything. If the folder isn't there, everyone stops and they're like, there's a problem, right? This should exist. So that's step number 1, file structure. Make it the same, make it easy on yourself, start that system. Step 2, we use Google products, so I'm using a Google Calendar. You could use a different calendar. I know there are programs you can pay for that do this, but right now we're talking about the cheap, easy way to do it. So I go make a separate Google Calendar for every single transaction we have. And I'll go into the reason why in a second, but first I'm going to show you how, and then you can see why. So I go straight down to create a calendar. So right here at this little plus sign, and I hit create new calendar. And from here, I'm gonna type in the street address. So we're working off 123 Main Street right now. And I'm gonna hit create calendar. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna put a separate calendar on here. And I'm gonna show you how I use that right now. So we'll go into settings in a little bit, but right now I'm toggled on. So if you can see 123 Main Street. Right now, when I'm adding events, I'm only adding it to 123 Main Street. So let's say I have my photos scheduled. And then I'd put the property address here. Let's say it's like 9 to 11. Save. Maybe we've got photos. Maybe I'm going to put listing on the market. Maybe I'm going to do an open house. Let's say from like 9. It's too early, but pretend street. So now, when I'm looking at these dates, I'm only looking at this transaction's dates. So for me, the next thing that I do is I come right in here, and whoever's gonna attend the photos, I add them as a guest. So, it's probably gonna be myself, but if it was my assistant or something like that, I'm gonna add them right here. The next thing I can do if I have techie clients is I can go into the settings of my calendar, and you're gonna know your clients. So if they're techie and they use their calendar, they're gonna wanna see this. If they're not gonna care, right? So I come right in here, and so for my younger, techier clients, I'm gonna add them to this. Maybe I add my assistant, maybe I add my marketing person, whatever that is. But the nice thing is I'm not adding them as an invitee on every single event because they probably don't need to be there, but maybe they want to know. And so the nice thing is when I have, let's say, 10 transactions going on and I do my calls on Monday morning to all of my sellers, I toggle off all of these calendars and I'm only looking at 123 Main Street. So I'm talking to sellers for 123 Main Street. And I am talking about their property only. I could put showings on here if I wanted to go that far. I can put photos. I can put all the dates that I want. And then eventually when it goes under contract, I can put all of my contingency or due diligence dates on there as well. So we can have a full in-depth conversation about their listing, and it's all right in front of you. And so now when I go to the next person, maybe I toggle this off and I click on the next transaction. Maybe if I want to see all my listings at a glance, I might, maybe I'm talking to my transaction team. I want to toggle them all on. What do we got going on this week? Super helpful for me. My Google Calendar on my phone. So if I'm on the go, I can look at that calendar right away and really know what's happening. And since I already pay for Google Calendar, this is free. And everyone always knows exactly where it's going to be and exactly what's going on with the transactions at any given time without using an entirely other system. So, all right, so 3, last but not least, creating some sort of transaction workflow. So for clients who don't have a ton of transactions, but you want to start staying organized, I recommend Asana. All of these tasks just started with an Excel sheet, a list of what we do for our listings and when. And from there, you can import it from an Excel directly into an Asana. And we use a template. So every single time we have a listing, this template populates with instructions in each task because we do have an admin team and with all of our marketing tasks. What I found is that when you start getting really busy, the stuff in your mind that used to just come normally, like, hey, this is all the things I do, is a little hard to complete because you have so many things going on at one time. So we use this for our clients that want a cheap, effective way. Asana can be free at the base plan, and we start them on a template. From here, you can see we just organize it in columns based off of status of the transaction. And then each of these tasks, not each of them, but some of them do have like descriptions in there or subtasks. So, pre-listing, we've got like, make sure you add the TC to the program and maybe schedule a measurement and schedule a post install. And that way our team can work together. Or if you are just an individual agent, you can jump in here and remind yourself exactly what needs to be done and what needs to be scheduled out. And you can set yourself little reminders and task due dates, which is really helpful for me because I use this on all the time. So what I would do is when this is coming on, I would duplicate my template and I would rename it with the listing name. So hopefully you have a couple going on at the same time. And then you're just gonna reassign whoever this needs to be. I recommend not assigning the full template out from day one. Do it step by step. So you want someone kind of in charge of this template to take control of it and make sure that as it goes through the pipeline, you're reassigning these tasks to who needs to do it. And the nice thing is you can come in here, same thing like with our calendar. When we're having our Monday conversations with our sellers, we can go through what we're working on and kind of let them know, right? Because there's a lot of sellers that have no idea how much stuff we're working on. So we can go, okay, great. We have scheduled the measurement. We have done the post install. We have, done these marketing pieces, blah, blah, blah. And you can kind of go through where everything's at in the pipeline as well. And it's just a good reminder, right? So like, if you come in here and you get all the way to the end of your transactions, if you can see, I have one for an open house, I have one for inspection in escrow and closed. This is the biggest one where I feel like a lot of people forget those closing things, right? So did you update your CRM? Did you update them to all your third-party sites? Did you grab all your stuff from the house? Like, do you have your lockbox? Did you do a closing gift? Like, all of these things are really good reminders that I think a lot of times just get dropped at the very end. And that way you don't archive this whole project or workflow until everything is completed. Okay, there you have it. You got the inside scoop on organizing listings effectively and on a budget. And if you have any questions, feel free to schedule a call down below and hope to see you again soon.